whole, highly religious Americans are less concerned about global warming. A new report from the Pew Research Center found that people who are very religious are less likely than other American adults to worry about climate change. 57% of the respondents from the survey of over 10,000 Americans believe that climate change is a severe problem. So that means that most Americans believe that this is a problem. However, the more religious an American is, the less likely they are to see climate change as a serious issue, and the more likely they are to identify as Republican. As a group, evangelicals are notorious for downplaying or denying climate change and its harmful effects. The survey discovered that 66% of evangelicals are more concerned about the possible impacts of environmental regulations on the economy and individual freedoms than other religious groups. But when politics is taken into consideration, a different picture emerges. 78% of evangelicals who lean Democrat perceive climate change as a serious issue, compared to only 17% of Republican-leaning evangelicals. In contrast, religiously unaffiliated American adults are more likely to see climate change as a threat, with about 70% of the respondents claiming it as a serious problem. So that means the vast majority of religiously unaffiliated people see this as a problem. However, the study showed that only 34% of the religious nuns who lean towards the Republican Party are less likely to be concerned. Although many factors influence American adults' perception of climate change, the survey conducted from April 11th to 17th concludes that the main driver of U.S. public opinion about climate change is political party, not religion.
Okay, why do you think that is? What does being religious got to do with not being concerned about global warming?
So the poll also looked at many other factors. So one thing that it looked at is like, how often is climate change talked about in your congregation? And they found that it is talked about a tiny fraction of the time. Like, does your church use recycling? A minority does. Like, does your church ever talk about the environment at all? A tiny minority does. So it's something that's not often even discussed. And so it's not on people's radar and not seen as a community concern, because for many people, church and their congregations are their primary spot of finding community and also hearing about what is happening in the community and what concerns are reflected in the community, which then becomes a priority for them themselves.
I think it's worse than that. I don't think it's just not, it's beyond them just showing lack of care. I do think like a lot of these churches actually advocate against taking this seriously. Like they try to portray it as a conspiracy, as not that big of a deal. But why? What is the relationship?
Or that God will just take care of it.
Or God will take care of it, or if it's and some of them even like treat it as a good thing.
That's what I was about to say.
Some of them even encourage it, like they would like to see the end of the world. So that's when Jesus comes in. You get to see like, oh, the world is ending. Hopefully it happens before I'm dead because I want to see Jesus. Like, so yeah, there's that.
Yeah, basically that's what I was getting into, was that in some cases it's even as extreme as being like, oh, well, yeah, this is part of the end times. Like, God talked about this. We knew about this. We know that this is supposed to happen, but we're part of God's flock, so we will be taken care of, so we don't need to be so concerned. There's also like weird aspects of dominionism, which is, can be a huge influence in many Protestant congregations. So that's a big part of things as well. But I was raised Catholic, so I don't really know that much about a dominionist point of view. But from my point of view, I'm like, this is a little freaky.
Yeah, I mean, these studies obviously don't show causation. They just show they do show the causation as well, but they don't show the details of why it causes it, right? I do hope, like, given now that we see such high correlation between religiosity and climate change denial, there's more studies to show how this happens. How does religion cause people to be climate change deniers and all that stuff? Because this is a serious issue. And the more we understand how people come up with the beliefs that they have, the more we're going to be able to tackle it. But this is another reason why atheist activism matters, right? Religion is not just bad for mental health and local politics and international politics. It is responsible for also killing the planet, right? Like, these are a big chunk of Americans who, if they voted in favor of taking more actions to save the planet, the whole world, like, you should be angry anywhere you live, right? If you're living in Pakistan or India or Bangladesh or Philippines, you have to understand that America as a country doing less for global warming has a more significant effect on your lives. Every single one of you watching, this is harming you. So the religiosity of Americans is making the world's largest superpower, the world's most powerful country, doing less to tackle something that is threatening every single one of you who's watching, and your children, and especially your children's children, right? So this is what religiosity is doing to your lives. And this is why atheist activism matters.
Yeah, but Armin, how would you? The study is finding that it's more of political affiliation that's driving these attitudes than religious affiliation. Because if the evangelical that they polled is religious, they are 78% likely to, excuse me, if the evangelical is a Democrat, if they lean Democrat, then they're 78% of them will say that is a serious concern. If an non-religious person is leaning towards Republican, then 34% of them are going to say, oh, it's not a concern, versus the 70% that said it is a concern overall.
Right. So there's based on the numbers you gave me, there's a correlation with religiosity and with political affiliation, but there's a stronger relationship with political affiliation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So even without political affiliation, if you strip that out, there's still a correlation with religiosity. But obviously, being a Republican is a better indication that you're going to be a climate change denier more than you being a Christian. So being a Christian will give an indication that you might be more leaning towards climate change denial, but being a Republican is a stronger indication. It's stronger. Yeah. I mean, being Republican is as insane, maybe even more insane than being Christian. So I agree with that. So I'm not denying the fact that this is a handicap to be also a Republican. You know, just because we're anti-religion doesn't mean that we deny other disorders, other political disorders, such as republicanism. Right.
Oh my God, you crack me up.
No, but the problem also is with republicanism is taking. So here's also, even though republicanism is its own poison, separate from religion, republicanism requires religion. So you have many.
And has for decades.
Yes. So we have Republicans who are not religious, right? But republicanism as an ideology depends on Christianity. So
undeniable.
Even if so without Christianity, republicanism would crumble, right? So if republicanism is also hurting the planet as a whole, republicanism requires Christianity for it to survive, and you can still blame Christianity for the cancer that is republicanism.
Do you saying political disorders? I love it.
He suffered from a very severe political disorder.
Get my best-selling book, Why There Is No God, for free. Click on the link for it in the description.